Hello, America. It's Bianca, GOP girl, Clean TV Live. And Dems stand by their candidates, but I guess Republicans don't stand by theirs. What is this? I thought, the last I heard, a man or woman was innocent until proven guilty. And yet, Speaker Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell are coming out against Roy Moore, saying that Judge Roy Moore should step down and should get out of the race for the Senate. Excuse me, but I remember President Bill Clinton. Do you all remember Monica Lewinsky? And yet, that was okay? There seems to be a real double standard here, and it just doesn't sit right with me. And the timing with this doesn't sit right with me. Let me just go over something, okay? Today it came out that Judge Roy Moore, when he was in his 30s, he was banned from a mall because he was flirting with teenage girls. Let's talk about teenage girls going to malls. When I was living in Miami, and I had several students I was teaching tennis, and I had several students that were 12 to 16, 17 years old. And I would go to what was like the hub for all of the little teeny boppers. And this was a place, restaurants, movie theaters, blah, 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 blah. And I would go out with my now ex-husband, and we would be with his associates from his law firm, and these men would be, and these are men in their 40s. And I would have girls that I wouldn't even recognize that I taught, 12, 13 years old, 14 years old. And they'd say, "Hi, Sean." And I'd have to take a double take because the little cute, innocent 13-year-old girl was in 6-inch heels, full makeup, and, just looking very, very sexy and not looking at all like a 13-year-old girl. And one of my now ex-husband's friends said, "I swear to God, these kids have to have lockers. There has to be like an underground place here where these kids have lockers and these kids are changing, because there's no way any mother or father would let their child out of the house looking like this, because these kids that you say are 13, 14 years old look like they could pass for 25. So I wasn't there. However, we're talking about accusations that are coming out 40 years later. So perhaps Judge Moore was in his 30s. I'm sorry, guys, but guys in their 30s aren't, you know what? They have no idea how old somebody is. They don't know if a 13-year-old is dressed in 6-inch heels, full makeup. We all know models. There are models that put on makeup and look a heck of a lot older. Perhaps Roy Moore did flirt with younger girls in his 30s. Perhaps he did it thinking these girls that were dressed like they were 25 were older than they were. However, we don't even know if the story about the mall is true. We don't have any tangible evidence. And that's the point here. There is not, everyone that is coming out against Roy Moore is convicting this man before, he is innocent until proven guilty. And they are convicting this man until he's been proven guilty. And it's not right. Because we have the Democrats that have, there's a state representative, and he's in the middle of a sexual harassment complete debacle. And he's claiming, his name is Steve Lepsick. And he's claiming that he's being blackmailed and that he's the victim in this. Okay, so maybe, just maybe Judge Roy Moore should take a tip from this man. Of course, no, it doesn't work that way, because the Dems can get away with everything. They can get away with murder. Well, yeah, we don't know, but then again. But they can get away with just about anything. No, they can get away with everything. I mean, remember Hillary Clinton in Benghazi, she leaves 4 men to die, and yet she ran for the presidency. And we have Joe Biden, Creepy Joe, massaging a little girl's shoulders, and that's okay. And yet we have a man who did not want the 10 Commandments scratched from the courthouse. And a man who doesn't want the 10 Commandments removed from a building. This is not a man that attacked a teenage girl. The woman that, and I couldn't get out of the car. Well, Judge Moore was not Ted Bundy. To my knowledge, back in the 70s, the only man, and I don't even know if this was in the 70s, but Ted Bundy, according to Debbie Harry, singer Debbie Harry, had a car that she could not get out of. Why didn't this girl get out of the car? Secondly, what is a 16-year-old girl accepting a ride from a stranger? Okay? It doesn't make sense. Now, let me get into the 40 years later, okay? Because I had an incident when I was younger. I was in my 20s. And I happened to meet I don't know when he was. He was probably in his 30s. I was in my young 20s. He was in his 30s. And this was he may have been a state representative. And I remember I was all impressed. I was all, in awe of this. This is a man that held political office, and I was just starting to get into politics. And I was just so thrilled to be out in this group of people with all of these political bigwigs, and this man being one of them. And so I ended up, and we were in a car together. I believe we were, I don't know if we were in a taxi in Miami or what, I don't even remember exactly. But at any rate, this man did something completely inappropriate, okay? And I was horrified. Now, I was horrified, and when the taxi, pulled to a stop, I left, said my goodnights, and went back and told my mother what happened. And I died laughing. I'm like, this is a man who holds political office. And, at this point, I didn't know what went on in Washington. I didn't know what happened. And I thought it was kind of funny. Now, if I had felt in fear, sure, I would have gone to authorities, but I didn't. The man was drunk, okay? He was drunk, and if he had actually he did run for a higher office and he lost. But my point is, would I have ever gone forward X amount of years later? No, I wouldn't have. Okay, if I had felt in fear of my life or in fear of my whatever, I would have gone to authorities. These women waiting some 40 years later is absolutely ridiculous. It's insane. And you know what? If this were done to the Democrat on the other side, the Democrats would be saying that. And the Republicans need to stand together and stand up for Roy Moore, because this is 40 years later. It would not be allowed in a court of law. These women cannot go into a court of law and press charges because there's a statute of limitations. Well, there should be a statute of limitations on going after a man's character as well. This is ridiculous. And may I remind everybody that might be a Republican that is coming out against Roy Moore and saying that, they're disgusted that any of their Republican friends are standing with Roy Moore. Can I remind you all, did you not stand with President Trump when he said the P word and it was on tape and you saw it with your own eyes? That was okay. Did you not stand with President Trump when women came out against President Trump and we could tell it was not believable? Or is it just because President Trump was your candidate, and perhaps you don't live in the state of Alabama, so this doesn't matter to you. But see, it does matter to you. It should matter to you because we need Republicans in the Senate, and this is a good man. Any man that Speaker Paul Ryan doesn't want in the Senate, we all want in the Senate. If you supported Trump, then you want Roy Moore. Until there is a preponderance of evidence to prove this man is guilty, then we should all stand with Republicans and not against them. Because let me just say, if you are against Roy Moore and you're a Republican, then you were as bad as all of the people that you got on because they were Republicans and did not stand with President Trump. Just saying, something to think about. We need to stand together. And I've had it with women coming out years later. In closing, I would also like to say, someone mentioned to me, oh, well, what about Harvey Weinstein? And actually let me just end on this note. Harvey Weinstein. Yes, these women that are coming out, these actresses that are now coming out and saying, oh, I'm such a prude. Harvey Weinstein, yes, he came after me too. He wanted me to do this. He wanted me to do that. Oh, yep. Oh, I don't do that. I didn't want to do that. Well, they certainly didn't say anything when it happened. If they were a true feminist, they would have said something when it happened. But see, the whole thing is these actresses and actors, they wanted fame and fortune. So you see, when it's convenient to be a prude, the left will be a prude. However, they are not at all as they want everyone to perceive them to be. Just saying. Fame and fortune was more important to them than their virtue. On that note, I still stand with Judge Roy Moore, and I think this is a political hatchet job. And I think all of us as Republicans should stand together and set a precedent. Republicans need to stand together. Thank you for watching. This is Bianca, GOP Girl with Clean TV Live. Good night, everyone. Bye-bye.